Hello and welcome to Class 8 Social Science. Let us begin with History, first chapter, that is how, when, and well. There was a time when historians were fascinated with deaths. There were heated debates about the dates on which rulers will crown or battles will fall. In the common sense or common ideas, history was synonymous with that. You may have heard people saying that I find history boring because it is all about memorizing dates. Is such a conception true? Are you agree with these questions? Certainly not. Because history is the study of past event and it is much more than memorizing that. In these lessons, we will learn how did it happen, when did it happen, and where did it happen. And we also study about the importance of events in the past, the important places, dates, names, and we will learn facts. In the next slide, meaning of history. History is certainly about changes that occurs over time. It is also about finding out how things were in the past and how things have changed. As soon as we compare the past with the present, we refer to time. We use the word like presence. We refer to time like we talk of before and after. Living in the world, we do not always ask a historical questions about what will and what we see around us. We take things for granted as if what we see has always been in the world we inhabit. But most of us have our own moment of wonders when we are curious and we ask questions that actually are historical. Watching someone sip a cup of tea at the roadside tea stall, you may wonder when did people begin to drink tea or coffee. That is also we can find it out from history. And we can see when were railway built and how did people travel long distances before the age of railway. In the next slide, from history also we can learn about caste system in Hinduism. In ancient Indian society, there were 5 types of castes in Hinduism. There is at the top of the pyramid in this slide, we have you see there is a Brahmins who used to be a priest and academician. And the next bottom we see Kshatriyas or Vairus who used to become a king, and Vaishyas who took up the business activities, Sudras, servants subordinate to Vaishyas, Kshatriyas and Brahmin, and the outcasts, Dalits, the untouchables class is at the top of at the bottom of the pyramid. In next slide we see, let us move on to the next slide, James Renner. James Renner was mentioned in the first page in your first chapter in history. Let us see who is James Renner. He was born on December 3, 1742 in England and died on March 29, 1830. He was the leading British geographer of his time. He constructed the first nearly accurate map of India. Because during that time, Renner was asked by Robert Clive to produce a map of Hindustan. He is also an enthusiastic supporter of British conquest of India. And therefore, he joined East India Company and became a Surveyor General of Bangalore in 1764 to 77. Let us proceed on to the next slide. East India Company. English company, that is East India Company, formed for the exploitation of trade with East and Southeast Asia and India. To trade with Southeast Asia, particularly to India, for example, like tea, coffee, indigo. This was incorporated by Royal Charter on December 31st, 1600 by the British Queen, that is Queen Elizabeth. They started as a monopolistic trading body. The company became involved in politics slowly, gradually, and acted as an agent of the British imperialism in India from the early 18th century to the mid 19th century. The activities of the company in China in the 19th century also served as a catalyst for the expansion of British influence there. Same thing. And again, next slide. History is refers to span of time. We cannot determine specific that when British rule was started, as it happened over a span of time. Without referring to history, we cannot determine a specific date when a British rule was started, as it happened over a span of time. Similarly, we develop a taste of drinking tea over a period of time. See the advertisement on the right side, this from the slide, Lipton teas. And the next slide, past versus present state of history. Earlier, history was associated with only string of death. This was because history used to keep a track of better and big events. The king, what are particular kings, and what are the better he fought, and what are the when did he married, when did the king lose his batters, so and so forth. At present, however, history is a wider concept which includes how, what, and where. These are the concept. History is a wider concept. For example, how people earn their livelihood, we can see from history, we can learn from history. How people collected fruits, vegetables, how did people started to develop agriculture, how people started to produce foods, and how people started to invent things, utensils, instruments, and tools, and how people ate in the past, and how people play in the past, etc., etc. And let us move on to the next slide. Criteria to select a set of that. Dates became important when we assume that a particular set of events are important. For example, let us say most of the history in India was written by British historian. This historian started writing with the rule of first Governor General, that is Warren Hastings, and ended with the last Viceroy, that is Lord Mountbatten. And they mention about each and every particulars Governor General like Hastings, Wellesley, Bentinck, Dalhousie, Canning, Lawrence, Linton, Ripon, Irvine, etc. And all the dates in these history books were linked to their personalities of each Governor General. And they also mention about the activities and the policies, achievement, and the personalities of the each and every Governor General was mentioned in this Indian history, which is written by British historian. So this is how we can learn and we can select the set of that. Likewise, history can be studied. First Governor General, let's see. Warren Hastings was the first Governor General of India in 1773. He was a competent, honorable, and first-sighted, able administrator, and whose policies, while some controversial, decisively shape and stabilize future Anglo-Indian relations. The controversy surrounding his administration make him the subject of impeachment and trial in Great Britain. So that is how we can see Warren Hastings became, how he became the first Governor General of India, and what are the things he have done during his rulership. Criteria to paradise. There is a criteria. There is a way to paradise. Let's see in this slide. In 1817, a Scottish economist and political philosopher named James Mill published a book, History of British India. In this book, the Indian history is divided into three periods. This James Mill, he divided Indian history into three periods. That is, according to him, the first period is Hindus, second Muslim, and last, the third, British. So later on, historian has divided the period of history. So moving away from the British or James Mill classification of his history, historians have divided Indian history into ancient, medieval, and modern. So this division also has its problem. It is a periodization that is borrowed from the West, while the modern period was associated with the growth of all the forces of modernity like science, reason, democracy, liberty, and equality, etc. So that is how we can periodize, the criteria to periodize history. So that is how we can study and we can learn from history. In the next part of our discussions, we will continue our chapter, that is what is colonial. We can analyze what is colonial period. Administration produces records. What are the administration records in the past, and we can learn about survey become important source of history, and officer record which tells us about, and officer record do not tells us about. So for today our discussion, let us end for today. Have a good day. Thank you.